The call came at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, the kind of call that changes everything. "Luna, baby, it's Dad. Your mother. She's not breathing right." My name is Luna, and that call marked the beginning of my undoing. Or maybe it was the start of everything finally falling into place. Depends on how you look at it. "What do you mean she's not breathing right?" I sat up in bed, already reaching for my keys. The same keys I'd used countless times for countless emergencies over the years. "We're at Memorial Hospital. They're saying something about her heart. Please, we need you here." His voice cracked. "They won't treat her without insurance or payment up front." Of course they wouldn't. I rubbed my eyes, mentally calculating my savings. "I'm on my way." The hospital corridors were too bright, too sterile. Dad paced outside the emergency room, still in his ratty Cleveland Browns pajamas. Mom lay on a bed inside, pale but conscious, wrapped in those thin hospital blankets that never seemed to provide enough warmth. "Miss Moore?" A doctor approached, clipboard in hand. "Both your parents need immediate intervention. Your mother has severe coronary blockage, requiring bypass surgery. Your father's tests revealed critical issues as well." Dad's face crumpled. "Luna, we tried getting loans. No one will approve us. Our credit—" He trailed off, and I knew why. The gambling, the missed payments, the perpetual financial chaos that had shadowed my childhood. "What's the total cost?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "With both surgeries and aftercare, we're looking at close to $200,000. The number hit like a physical blow. I'd just made project manager at work, had finally started building my own safety net after years of scraping by. "There are financing options," the doctor added carefully, "with a qualified co-signer." Mom reached for my hand, her grip weak. "Baby, I know it's a lot to ask." "I'll do it." The words left my mouth before I could stop them. Because that's what daughters do, right? They save their parents, no matter the cost. The next few hours were a blur of paperwork and signatures. My phone buzzed with a text from my boyfriend Theo. "Everything okay? You disappeared." I didn't reply. Couldn't explain how I'd just signed away my financial future for the people who'd missed my college graduation because they were in Atlantic City. The surgeries were scheduled for the following week. I took time off work, cancelled my planned vacation to Spain, and started researching second jobs. The loan payments would be crushing, but I'd make it work. I always did. 3 weeks later, both parents were home recovering. I'd been bringing groceries, helping with medications, coordinating with their doctors. Everything seemed to be going as well as could be expected. Then I saw the Instagram post. Mom, still with surgical bandages visible under her designer blouse, beaming at Le Petit Bistrot, the fanciest French restaurant in town. Dad, raising a glass of expensive wine. The caption read, "Celebrating life. Blessed Hajda family first." My hands shook as I checked our joint loan account. There it was, a $400 charge from the restaurant. Money that should have gone toward the medical bills I was killing myself to pay. "Oh, honey, we needed to celebrate being alive," Mom said when I called. "You understand, don't you? After everything we've been through?" I did understand. I understood all too well. "Of course," I heard myself say. "I'm glad you're feeling better." After hanging up, I stared at my reflection in the dark window of my apartment. The same apartment where I'd been eating ramen for dinner to save money for their loan payments. Where I'd been taking client calls at midnight for the extra overtime. My phone pinged with another notification, a new charge on the loan account, $805 at Nordstrom. I didn't call to ask about that one. Instead, I opened my laptop and started a new spreadsheet. Date, amount, purpose. Evidence, though I didn't know it yet. "Just until they're back on their feet," I whispered to myself. "Just until they recover." But deep down, watching the numbers climb, something else was recovering too. Something cold and clear and tired of being the responsible one. The good daughter. The human ATM. My phone lit up again. Dad's text. "Princess, your mother saw the most amazing cruise package. Think you could help us celebrate our new lease on life?" I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Then I saved the text message to a new folder labeled Records. The game was about to change. They just didn't know it yet. "You should see your father's new golf clubs." Mom gushed over FaceTime. "They're helping with his recovery so much. The doctor said light exercise is important." Behind her, I could see shopping bags scattered across their living room floor. Gucci, Nordstrom, Saks Fifth Avenue. The physical therapy equipment I'd bought them was nowhere in sight. "That's great, Mom. Listen, about the loan payments." "Oh, honey, the connection's getting bad. I'll call you later." The screen went black. This had become our new normal. Every conversation about money mysteriously ended in technical difficulties or sudden emergencies. I switched to my email, where another credit alert waited. $2,000 at some wine club I'd never heard of. My stomach churned as I dialed Annika's number. "Girl, you look like hell," Annika said when I walked into her office later that day. As my financial advisor and former college roommate, she was the only one who knew the full extent of what I'd done for my parents. I dropped a stack of receipts on her desk. "They're spending like they won the lottery." "My lottery?" Annika flipped through the papers, her expression darkening. "Luna, this is bad. Really bad. They've spent more on luxury items in 2 months than you make in half a year." "I know." I slumped in the chair. Every time I try to talk about it, they either guilt-trip me or disappear. "Have you seen their house lately?" "Not inside. They always meet me on the porch or suggest restaurants." I paused. "Why?" "Because I'm betting those shopping bags aren't the half of it. We need to know what we're dealing with." That Saturday, I brought soup over, unannounced. Mom's face flickered with something annoyance before she plastered on a smile. "Baby, we were just heading out. I'll be quick." I stepped past her into the house and froze. New furniture, new artwork, a massive flat-screen TV that had to cost thousands. The kitchen had been completely remodeled with high-end appliances. "Do you like it?" Dad emerged from his study, wearing a Rolex I'd never seen before. "We decided life's too short to live with outdated things." "How?" I swallowed hard. "How are you paying for all this?" "Oh, don't worry about that." Mom waved dismissively. "Money has a way of working itself out. You know what they say. You can't take it with you." "Actually, I do need to worry about it. I'm responsible for... After everything we've done for you?" Dad's voice took on that familiar edge. "We gave you life, raised you, sacrificed everything. Now we finally have a chance to enjoy ourselves, and you're counting pennies? I'm not counting pennies. I'm counting thousands. Thousands that I'm working overtime to... I can't believe how selfish you've become." Mom cut in, tears welling up. "We almost died, Luna. Does that mean nothing to you?" I left shortly after, their guilt-laden words ringing in my ears. Back home, I called Annika. "I need you to check something for me," I said. "I have a feeling they're taking out other loans." 3 days later, Annika's text made my blood run cold. "Come to my office, now." She spread 5 documents across her desk. "These are new loans, all taken out in the last month. They used your co-signed loan as proof of assets." My hands shook as I read the amounts. "How is this possible? They didn't have my permission." "They didn't need it. The original loan you co-signed gave them leverage. Luna, they're using your good credit to build a house of cards." I thought about the Rolex, the kitchen remodel, the endless shopping bags. "They're not even trying to pay anything back, are they?" "No." Annika's voice was gentle. "They're spending like people who never plan to pay." My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Daddy and I found the perfect cruise! Only $12,000 for the suite. We deserve this after everything, don't you think?" Attached was a photo of them at some luxury showroom, champagne glasses in hand. Dad's new Rolex gleamed in the light. "I need to stop this," I whispered. "You need to do more than stop it." Annika pulled out another folder. "You need to protect yourself, because when this house of cards falls, and it will fall, they're going to expect you to catch them." Again. I stared at the photo of my parents, so happy, so entitled, so completely unconcerned about the daughter drowning in their wake. "What's the first step?" I asked. Annika smiled grimly. "First, we document everything. Then we get creative." I saved the cruise text to my evidence folder, right next to the growing spreadsheet of expenses. Creative, I thought. I could do creative. After all, I learned from the best. "We need to talk about the loan payments," I said, standing in my parents' newly redecorated living room. The smell of fresh paint and new leather furniture filled the air. "Now, isn't a good time, sweetie?" Mom replied, not looking up from her iPad. She was browsing Pottery Barn's website. "It's never a good time. But we're $80,000 deeper in debt than when we started, and I'm the only one making payments." Dad muted the golf tournament on his massive new TV. "You know, when I was your age, I never questioned helping my parents." "Did they make you co-sign a life-altering loan and then max it out on luxury items?" "There it is." He stood up, towering over me like he used to when I was small. "The attitude, the ingratitude. You wouldn't be where you are if it wasn't for us." Where exactly is that, Dad? Working 60-hour weeks? Cancelling my therapy sessions to afford your loan payments?" Mom's eyes welled up on cue. "After everything we've been through, I can't believe you'd throw our medical issues in our faces like this." "Medical issues you're supposedly recovering from while planning a cruise?" "We earned a break," Dad snapped. "You'll understand when you have kids, if someone ever takes you on." The words hit like a slap. I was suddenly 19 again, emptying my college fund to cover their gambling debts. 21, working 3 jobs while they complained about my grades slipping. 24, missing my best friend's wedding because they needed bail money. "I'm done," I said quietly. "No more extra payments, no cruise, no more shopping sprees." "You ungrateful little—" Dad started, but Mom cut him off with a hand on his arm. "Luna, baby, let's not be hasty. We're family. Family helps family." "Like you helped me when I needed braces? Or when I got that scholarship but couldn't afford the meal plan?" That was different. Mom's tears vanished, replaced by anger. "We had nothing then." "And now you have everything. My everything." I left them sputtering and drove straight to the Rusty Nail, a dive bar where my cousin Mallory worked weekends. She was behind the bar when I walked in, her eyebrows rising at my expression. That bad, huh? She poured me a whiskey without asking. Did you know about the cruise they're planning? Mallory's face darkened. Yeah, Aunt Kennedy's been bragging about it to everyone, showing off the brochures at family dinner last week. Family dinner? The one they said they couldn't invite you to because they were still recovering. She made air quotes with her fingers. They were fine, dancing, drinking, showing off their new watches. I knocked back the whiskey. They've always been like this, haven't they? I just couldn't see it. You saw it. You just thought you could fix it. Mallory leaned closer. Remember when we were kids and they forgot your 16th birthday because they were in Vegas? They said there was a family emergency. There was. They lost 10 grand at the blackjack table. She poured me another drink. I used to be jealous of you. You know, their successful daughter. Now I realize you're just their personal bank. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Your mother's crying because of you. Hope you're happy. I need a lawyer, I said suddenly. Already got one for you. Mallory slid a business card across the bar. Called her last week when I heard them bragging about some new loans. I stared at her. Why? Because someone needs to stop this cycle. Might as well be you. The next morning, I sat in a lawyer's office, spreading out bank statements and loan documents. They've breached several terms of the original loan agreement, the lawyer said, reviewing the papers. Particularly the clause about additional debt without co-signer notification. Can I get out of it? Better. We might be able to transfer full liability to them. She looked up. But it won't be pretty. Neither is watching them spend my future on cruises. My phone lit up. A notification from the joint account. $3,000 deposit for the cruise. Made in my name. They used my information for the deposit, I said, showing the lawyer. She smiled grimly. That's fraud. Still want to proceed? I thought about Dad's words. If someone ever takes you on. About Mom's tears that appeared and disappeared like magic. About 16-year-old me sitting alone with a grocery store cupcake while they gambled in Vegas. Yes, I said. I want to proceed. The lawyer nodded and pulled out a fresh legal pad. Then, let's talk strategy, because if we do this, we do it right. I saved the cruise deposit notification to my evidence folder. Right indeed. The game was changing, and this time I was writing the rules. To family! Dad raised his wine glass, his new Rolex catching the restaurant's soft lighting. And to our Luna, who's finally coming around about the cruise. I smiled and raised my glass, my phone recording quietly in my blazer pocket. The lawyer had been clear. Document everything. I just want you both to be happy, I said, watching Mom order another 200-ton bottle of wine. That's our girl. She beamed. You know, Frankie, we did something right with this one. Raised her to understand family values. Dad nodded sagely. You can't put a price on raising a CEO. I thought about my dwindling savings account and bit back a response. Instead, I asked innocently, how are the loan payments going on your end? Oh, don't worry about that, Princess. Dad waved dismissively. Money comes, money goes. The important thing is living life to the fullest. Speaking of living life, Mom chimed in, pulling out a glossy brochure. We upgraded our cruise package. The presidential suite opened up. My hand tightened around my water glass. How much extra? Only another 8,000. She said it like she was talking about spare change. We put it on that new card we got, the one with your excellent credit score. I excused myself to the bathroom and called Annika. They did what? Her voice crackled through the phone. Used my credit for another card. I need you to... Already on it. Give me an hour. Back at the table, Dad was ordering his third scotch. You know what I always say. If you're not in debt, you're not living. I recorded that too. The next morning, Annika's office looked like a war room. Papers covered every surface, and her computer showed multiple financial records. Your parents have defaulted on 6 previous loans, she said, pointing to highlighted sections. They've been hiding assets through various relatives, mainly your Uncle Robert. The one with the investment opportunity last year? The same. They've been playing this game for decades, Luna, but here's where it gets interesting. She pulled up a document. Remember that clause we found about reassigning the loan? If the co-signer proves breach of conduct, yes. Well, I did some digging. Your parents' spending pattern isn't just irresponsible, it's potentially fraudulent. They're taking out new credit lines using your co-signed loan as collateral without disclosing their previous defaults. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Darling, the cruise line needs another deposit. Their system must be glitching because it's rejecting our cards. Be a dear and handle it. I showed Annika the text. I stopped all extra payments last week. They're just noticing now. Perfect timing. She handed me a thick folder. Because I found something else. Your parents listed you as a guarantor on 3 more loans without your knowledge. That's illegal. Can we prove it with the right documentation? Absolutely. I thought about the recording from dinner, the texts, the photos, the spreadsheets, 6 months of careful collection. What's our next move? First, we file for fraud protection on your credit. Then, my phone rang. It was Dad. Princess, there seems to be an issue with the payments. Your mother's quite upset. Really? What kind of issue? Nothing's gone through for 2 weeks. We called the bank, but they said they need to speak with you since you're the co-signer. I could hear Mom in the background. Tell her about the cruise deposit. We'll lose our suite. I'll look into it, I said calmly. After hanging up, Annika raised an eyebrow. You're getting better at this. I learned from the best manipulators in the business. My phone lit up again. A familiar name. Theo, my ex. Luna, can we talk? We met at a coffee shop an hour later. He looked the same. Kind eyes, worried expression. I heard about your parents, he said. Mallory told me everything. Come to say I told you so? No. He stirred his coffee. I came to say I'm sorry I wasn't more understanding back then. You were dealing with so much, and I just walked away. You were right to leave. I was obsessed with fixing them. And now? I showed him the folder of evidence. His eyes widened as he read. Luna, this is cold, calculated. Yes. Good. He handed the folder back. They deserve it. My phone buzzed again. Mom. The cruise line called. We have 48 hours to confirm the payment or we lose everything. I smiled, thinking about the legal papers sitting on my lawyer's desk, ready to file. Don't worry, Mom. I texted back. Everything's about to be taken care of. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't lying to make them feel better. I was telling the absolute truth. Oh, sign here, here, and initial here, my lawyer said, sliding documents across her desk. This officially begins the process of financial separation. Each signature felt like breaking a chain. The office was quiet except for the scratch of my pen and the steady hum of the air conditioning. My phone vibrated. Mom's daily guilt trip. Haven't slept in days worrying about the cruise. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof because of all this stress. I added the text to my evidence folder and signed another page. What happens next? I asked. We file these with the court today. Then we wait. Given the evidence we've compiled, they'll have approximately 72 hours to respond once served. My phone rang. Dad this time. Princess, we need to talk about these payment issues. Your mother's beside herself. I'm actually in a meeting right now, Dad. More important than family? His voice took on that familiar, threatening tone. We raised you better than this. I thought about the Christmas when I was 12, when they promised me a bike but bought scratch-off tickets instead, about the college fund they emptied for a can't-miss investment opportunity. You're right, Dad. Let's meet for dinner. Tonight. Finally coming to your senses, he huffed. Le Petit Bistrot at 7. Don't be late. The lawyer raised an eyebrow as I hung up. You're not actually paying anything, are you? No. I signed the final page. I'm serving them. Annika met me before dinner. Everything's in place, she said, handing me a USB drive. All their hidden accounts, the fraudulent credit applications, everything. Plus, I found something interesting about your Uncle Robert. The investment scheme? He's being investigated for financial fraud. Your parents knew. That's why they're rushing this cruise. They're trying to spend everything before it all comes out. I tucked the drive into my purse. Anything else? Just remember, let them talk. The more they say, the better. Le Petit Bistrot was busy when I arrived. Mum and Dad already had wine and appetizers. There's our girl, Dad boomed. Ready to sort out this silly payment situation? Actually, I wanted to talk about the cruise. I sat down, positioning my phone to record. Tell me more about the presidential suite. Mom's face lit up. Oh, it's magnificent. Private butler, ocean view, even a personal hot tub. We've already picked out new wardrobes for the formal nights. Sounds expensive. You can't put a price on making memories, Dad declared, ordering another bottle of wine. Besides, after everything we've been through, we deserve this. Everything you've been through, I repeated slowly, like the surgeries I paid for. We paid for those together, Mom said quickly, as a family. Really? Show me your contribution records. Dad's face darkened. Now, listen here. No, you listen. I pulled out a folder. These are records of every payment I've made. And these, I slid over more papers, are records of every luxury purchase you've made since recovering, including the ones through Uncle Robert. The color drained from their faces. You've been spying on us? Mom whispered. Protecting myself. There's a difference. We're your parents. Dad slammed his hand on the table. You ungrateful little... I filed for financial separation. I cut in. The papers were submitted this afternoon. You have 72 hours to respond. Mom started crying. Not her usual performance tears. Real ones. You can't do this to us. We're family. Family doesn't commit credit fraud. Family doesn't empty their child's college fund for gambling. Family doesn't... We'll fight this, Dad snarled. We'll get lawyers. With what money? The money you spent on Rolexes, or the money you're hiding with Uncle Robert, who, by the way, is under federal investigation? They froze. You're bluffing, Dad said, but his voice shook. I pulled out the USB drive. Want to bet? I hear you're good at gambling. Luna, baby. Mom reached for my hand. We can work this out. We're your parents. We gave you life. And I gave you everything else, but not any more. I stood up, leaving them with the papers. The court will contact you. Oh, and don't bother with the cruise. I've already notified the company about the fraudulent credit charges. You'll regret this, Dad called after me. You'll come crawling back. You always do. I turned at the door. Check your phones. As I walked out, I heard their simultaneous gasps as the asset freeze notifications came through. 6 months of planning, perfectly timed. Outside, the night air felt clean, fresh. My phone buzzed with their texts, threats, guilt trips, promises to change. I added them all to my evidence folder and drove home. The game wasn't over, but for the first time, I was winning. We're willing to forgive you, Mom said, stirring her coffee. Everyone makes mistakes. 3 days had passed since I'd dropped the bomb at Le Petit Bistrot. Now we sat in their living room, surrounded by their luxury purchases, having what they called a family reconciliation meeting. That's generous of you, I replied, my voice neutral. My phone recorded in my pocket, catching every word. We've been thinking, Dad added, his new Rolex conspicuously absent. Maybe we were a bit excessive with the spending. A bit. Don't take that tone, Mom snapped, then quickly softened. What we mean is, we can compromise. We'll skip the presidential suite on the cruise. The regular suite will do. I almost laughed. You still think you're going on the cruise? Well, of course. Dad leaned forward. Once you drop this ridiculous legal nonsense, everything can go back to normal. Normal? I pulled out a manila envelope. Let's talk about normal. What's that? Mom's eyes narrowed. Everything. I started laying out papers on their coffee table. Bank statements showing you never made a single loan payment. Credit card applications with my forged signature. Social media posts bragging about your purchases while I worked overtime to cover the minimum payments. Those are private! Dad reached for the papers, but I pulled them back. Private like the college fund you emptied? Or private like the gambling debts you made me pay at 19? We paid you back, Mom protested. Really? When? Silence. That's what I thought. I continued laying out documents. Here's something interesting. Your conversation with Uncle Robert about hiding assets. The one where you mentioned knowing about his fraud investigation. Their faces went pale. You recorded us? Dad's voice shook with rage. No, you recorded yourselves. Those fancy phones you bought with my credit. They back up everything to my cloud account, including text messages about your little schemes. Mom started crying. We're your parents. You can't do this to us. Actually, I already have. I pulled out the final document. This was filed this morning. The loan has been legally transferred to you, all of it. Impossible, Dad sputtered. Very possible, especially with proof of fraud and financial misconduct. The bank was particularly interested in those credit card applications with my forged signature. We'll fight this. Dad stood up, towering over me like he used to, but I wasn't a scared kid anymore. With what lawyer? The one you put a deposit down for using my credit. That retainer was reversed this morning. Mom lunged for her phone. I'm calling Robert. He'll know what to do. Uncle Robert was arrested yesterday. I showed them the news article. Federal agents found quite a paper trail, including some interesting transfers from your accounts. The room went silent, except for Mom's shaky breathing. What do you want? Dad finally asked. Money? Control? To punish us? I want nothing from you. Not anymore. I stood up. The cruise company has been notified about the fraudulent charges. The bank is freezing all associated accounts pending investigation. And that Rolex? I nodded toward Dad's bare wrist. The dealer's expecting it back. It was purchased with a fraudulent credit card, after all. You've ruined us, Mom whispered. No, you ruined yourselves. I just stopped covering for you. I headed for the door, then turned back. Oh, and those boxes in the garage? The ones with my childhood things you were supposed to be storing? They stiffened. I found the pawn receipts. Everything I ever owned or earned you sold. Well, now everything you own is about to be sold too. Karma's funny that way. Luna, please. Mom tried one last time. We can work this out. We're family. Family? I opened the door. Family doesn't steal from their children. Family doesn't forge signatures. Family doesn't empty college funds for slot machines. You'll regret this, Dad called after me. When you have children, you'll understand. I paused in the doorway. If I have children, they'll never know you existed. That's the only thing I learned from you worth passing on. Outside, the sun was setting. My phone buzzed with a text from Annika. Bank confirms transfer complete. You're officially free. I got in my car and watched through the window as my parents argued, gesturing wildly, their perfect world crumbling around them. Mom grabbed her phone, probably to call their country club friends. Dad paced, running his hands through his hair like he did when losing at poker. But this wasn't poker. This was reality. And they'd just lost everything. I drove away, leaving them to face what they'd created. The game was over. And for once, the house didn't win. They're selling the house, Mallory said, sliding a coffee across the diner table to me. Mom says they've been getting calls from collection agencies non-stop. 2 weeks had passed since I'd walked out of their lives. 2 weeks of blocked numbers, ignored emails, and flying monkeys trying to make me see reason. How are they taking it? Mallory snorted. How do you think? Aunt Kennedy's telling everyone you're having a mental breakdown. Uncle Frankie's threatening to sue you for elder abuse. My phone buzzed. Another email from Mom. Your father's in the hospital. His blood pressure. Is this what you wanted? To kill your own parents? I added it to the folder labeled Manipulation Attempts and took a sip of coffee. You don't believe them about Dad? Mallory asked. I called the hospital. He's not there. The diner's bell chimed. I looked up to see my mother walking in, mascara streaked down her face. Luna, baby, please. She rushed to our table. We need to talk. We talked 2 weeks ago. That wasn't talking. That was ambush. She collapsed into the booth, uninvited. Do you know what you've done to us? Our friends won't return our calls. The country club suspended our membership. The bank is asking questions about Robert. Sounds like consequences. We're your parents. Her voice rose, drawing attention from nearby tables. You can't just throw us away. Like you threw away my college fund, or my childhood belongings. That was different. You needed to gamble, to shop, to live beyond your means while I worked 3 jobs to support your habits. We gave you everything. No. I met her eyes. You took everything, and now you're mad because there's nothing left to take. She switched tactics, her tears drying instantly. Fine. You want to play hardball? Your father's talking to lawyers. We'll sue you for every penny. With what money? Mallory cut in. The money you spent on cruises, or the money you hid with my dad before he got arrested?" Mom's face went white. "You turned my own niece against me too?" "You did that yourself," Mallory said. "Remember my graduation, when you convinced my parents to invest my gift money with Uncle Robert." Mom stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. "You'll regret this, both of you. Family is everything." "No," I said quietly. "Self-respect is everything. Something I learned despite you, not because of you." After she stormed out, Mallory let out a long breath. "That was intense." "It's not over," I said, checking my phone. 3 missed calls from Dad already. "You ready for what comes next?" "I've been ready my whole life." I pulled out my laptop. "Want to see something interesting?" I showed her the email from the cruise company. Their reservation had been fully refunded to my account, the same account I'd used for their first medical payment. "Poetic justice," Mallory grinned. My phone buzzed again. A text from Dad. "You think you're so smart? Wait until our lawyer contacts you. We raised you. We own you." I forwarded the text to my lawyer and turned back to Mallory. "How's your dad doing? In federal custody, still trying to blame everyone but himself." She stirred her coffee. "Just like your parents. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Unless it rolls really far away on purpose." We both laughed, the sound feeling foreign but good. The diner's door chimed again. This time it was Annika waving a folder. "You're not going to believe this," she said, sliding into the booth. "They tried to take out another loan this morning, using your old documents. Let me guess, it didn't work." "Better. The bank flagged it as attempted fraud. They're launching a full investigation into all their accounts." My phone lit up with a final text from Mom. "We're prepared to forgive you, to start fresh. Isn't that what you always wanted? Our approval?" I showed the text to Mallory and Annika. "Are you going to respond?" Annika asked. "No need." I closed my phone. Their approval stopped meaning anything the day I approved of myself. Outside, rain started falling, washing the city clean. My phone stayed quiet. They'd finally realized I wasn't going to break. "To karma." Mallory raised her coffee cup. "To consequences," Annika added. I looked at my phone one last time, at the years of manipulation and guilt stored in its memory, then turned it off completely. "To freedom," I said, because that's what this was. Not revenge, not punishment, but liberation. And it felt better than their approval ever had. The sunrise painted Miami's coastline in shades of orange and pink as I sipped my morning coffee on the cruise ship's balcony. The same cruise my parents had tried to guilt me into paying for. Ironic how life works out sometimes. My phone buzzed. A text from Mallory. "They're finally moving out of the house today. Mom says Aunt Kennedy's been crying non-stop." I set my phone down and watched the waves, feeling nothing but peace. The guilt that had weighed me down my entire life had evaporated, replaced by something lighter, something freer. A knock at my cabin door. "Room service." I opened it to find Annika standing there, already dressed for the beach. "Really? Room service?" "Had to make sure you weren't sleeping through your own vacation." She flopped onto the couch. "First real vacation you've ever taken, isn't it? First one I didn't have to cancel for a family emergency." My phone buzzed again. An email from my lawyer. "Final paperwork processed. All accounts officially separated. Case closed." Speaking of family emergencies, Annika nodded at my phone. Heard anything from them? The last thing I got was a letter from Dad. I pulled it from my bag, unopened. Arrived just before we left. Are you going to read it? I turned the envelope over in my hands, feeling the weight of all the unspoken words inside. No. You sure? I walked to the balcony and held the letter over the railing. Some debts you pay with money, others you pay with peace. I let the letter fall, watching it disappear into the ocean. I finally have enough to cover both. Annika smiled. Look at you, all philosophical on vacation. Speaking of vacation, I grabbed my beach bag. I believe there's a private beach with our names on it. We spent the morning swimming and sunbathing, talking about everything and nothing. No emergency calls to answer. No guilt trips to navigate. Just peace. You know what I realized? I said, watching kids build sandcastles nearby. I used to think being a good daughter meant sacrificing everything. But being a good daughter to bad parents is just enabling bad behavior. Took you long enough to figure that out. My phone rang, an unknown number. I almost declined it until I recognized the area code. Hello? Luna. It was Theo. I just ran into your parents at the grocery store. My heart skipped. And they were using food stamps. Your dad was trying to return his Rolex, but apparently it's a fake. He paused. They looked different, smaller somehow. Are they okay? They're alive. Housing assistance helped them get a small apartment. Your mom's working part-time at a department store. I let that sink in. They were surviving, just not on my dime anymore. Thanks for telling me. Luna. Theo hesitated. You did the right thing. They needed this wake-up call. After hanging up, I looked at Annika. They're okay. Are you? Yeah. I smiled, surprising myself by meaning it. I really am. That evening, I stood at the ship's railing, watching another perfect sunset. A family walked by, parents and a young daughter. The girl dropped her ice cream, and instead of scolding her, her parents helped her clean up, bought her a new cone, and hugged her while she cried. Such a simple thing, such a normal family moment. Everything I never had. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Mallory. They're all moved out. Found something you might want to see. Attached was a photo of a small box she'd found in their attic. Inside were my old report cards, school photos, and a handmade Mother's Day card from when I was 6. Things they'd claimed were lost, or stolen, or pawned, but had kept all along. Want me to send them to you? Mallory asked. I thought about that little girl with the ice cream, about the parents who chose comfort over criticism, about the box of memories that meant more to them than they'd ever admitted. No. I texted back. Let them keep it. Maybe they'll learn something from those memories. I put my phone away and headed to dinner, where Annika was waiting with a glass of champagne. 2 new beginnings? She offered. 2 endings, I corrected, because sometimes the happiest ending is just walking away. The ship's horn sounded, signaling our departure to the next port. Somewhere behind us, my parents were starting their new, simpler life. Somewhere ahead, I was starting mine, and for the first time in my life, I didn't look back to make sure everyone else was okay before moving forward. I just moved forward, because that's what freedom feels like.